Hi, Tyler.
Hi, listeners.
Welcome to Your Go Today,
our podcast.
We're getting much better at this.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, boy.
I think it also has to do with how calm I come into recording.
That's wonderful. I love it.
Well, yeah.
It helps to be calm.
It does.
Well, share with me and us. What's the best thing that happened to you this week?
Oh my God, I've had the best week.
Gosh.
So I'm just going to say like 3 things really fast.
Okay.
One is that Matt and I celebrated our 4-year anniversary on like just a few days ago over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things about it were so gorgeous, and it was all so perfect, and I'm so happy, and I love him so much. So that's one.
Did you wear your Frenchie dress?
I did wear my Frenchie dress.
Gosh.
I did fun. For the first time. I took a picture. I'll send it to you.
Yes, please.
And that happened. And also this week, Matt booked and filmed a commercial and got a meeting with an agent.
So good.
Which you already know. But it's so exciting. And then I've been doing a little Kundalini yoga set every morning. And this morning I did 54 frogs without stopping once.
Wow. Look at you.
Big accomplishment over here at the Fowler household.
I love it.
I didn't think it was possible for me to do 54 frogs without stopping, so.
That is definitely. I'm going to celebrate you as I drink my coffee.
Yay! Celebration!
I love it.
Okay, Sally, what's the best thing that's happened to you this last week?
I should have thought of an answer because I don't really have one. Oh, I know. Okay, Justin and I went to the movies a few nights ago, completely like impromptu.
I think it's so funny how often your best thing that happened this week was Justin and I went to the movies.
Look, guys, I love the movies already. I love the dine-in even more. It's literally the best thing. Anytime that it happens, it's the best thing. We've actually gone to the movies 3 times in the last like week and a half. Because we had already gone to the movies that weekend before, and then we went to the movies that night, which part of why it was the best thing was because it's the first time that we've ever done that we've ever just been like, hey, do you want to go to a movie instead of like making dinner? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Because before, Justin would have to write or work at night after work. But now that he no longer has a 9 to 5, he works during the day. So we could just do that now. And then last night we went to the movies again. So we've seen 3 movies in the last week and a half, which is great. So that's the best thing that's happened to me. I love the movies so much, guys.
I have to say that impromptu date nights really are the best. Or not even impromptu date nights, just impromptu dates.
Yeah.
The other day, Matt and I were driving home, and we came across the Manhattan Bridge, and we were driving past, Junior's.
Uh-huh.
You know, which is like super famous for their cheesecake. And I've never been there because it's so touristy, but it was like 11 p.m. and I think they're open really late.
They are.
And we just made this like impulse decision to like pull over, and we got French fries and a piece of cheesecake and 2 decaf coffees at like 11 p.m. And we had the best time. I was like, this is the best date we've ever been on.
That's so fun. I love Junior's. I used to go to Tech, so
their cheesecake is good.
It's really good. It's like the hype is worth it.
Mm-hmm. And I like the ambiance in there.
Yeah, it's cute. I haven't been in there since high school.
Well, next time you come to visit, let's go to Junior's.
Okay, I like it.
Okay.
Oh right. God. Okay, I'm so excited.
I know. So we're really excited to be recording this episode today because for the first time ever, our guest is someone who had heard the podcast and reached out to us through our website without knowing us or having any connection to the show. So that feels really, really exciting.
It is very exciting. I had to mute myself because there's a crazy sound in the background. But that's why I did not react right away, listeners. It's not because I was ignoring Tyler.
Sally is excited, we promise.
Yeah, so I'm super jazzed about it. Okay.
All right, so without any further ado, welcome Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, ladies.
Oh my goodness, we're so excited you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. I know it is. I can feel it.
I know. All right, Sally, are you gonna take us there?
Let's go there.
Okay.
All right. So Sarah, thank you again for coming on the podcast. I invite you to close your eyes and take a couple of really delicious deep breaths. And to think about where you were a year ago today and everything that was happening. And then let us know in one word how you felt.
Scared.
So Sarah is here because a year ago today, she became sober. So that does...
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Totally. Woo!
Yeah. Celebration just to begin. Like,
Yes.
woo, Sarah!
Yeah.
Oh. So tell us more about what was going on. What was up for you?
Well,
How did you get there?
it's been something that I'm 29 now, so it's not a recent occurrence, so to speak. I became an alcoholic when I was 20, and I've been off and on over the years, sort of relapsing. And I had this really bad relapse at the beginning of last year, and I reached a point when I couldn't keep going with it anymore. So, my whole 20s pretty much were, I wouldn't say wasted, because I can use, everything that's happened to me for good. But they've been pretty awful, to be honest.
Wow.
Some really good things have happened to me in them. So I'm always looking for the good things. But, they have been difficult, and it's about how I use that experience now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could paint for us a picture of your last relapse and really help us understand where you were in that moment.
Yeah, I was a 24/7 drinker by this point. I live with my boyfriend, and I'd wake up at all hours. I would always have drink by my bed. I wouldn't go out to get any, because I couldn't. By this point, there was no way I could have driven, and I didn't want to put people in that danger. I'm not proud to say that I have done that in the past. But I was ordering alcohol in. I'd fallen down the stairs, so I could barely walk, because I'd gone over on both my ankles. I was bruised because I'd walked into things. And it was just that a horrible place of, I needed to, it was a need to have more.
Oh boy. I would love to know more about how you were feeling as all of this was happening. Were you even present enough to be feeling anything?
Yeah, I felt guilty, and that's the thing with addiction. I found is, it's not that I didn't care that I was hurting people. It was a case of, and it fueled the worse I felt about what I was doing to other people. It fueled me drinking more to get rid of that feeling of shame and guilt and try and block it out. So it was just a vicious circle. It was all those sort of negative, the emotions that sort of destroyed how I was just feeling about myself. A lot of self-hatred was going on.
Is your boyfriend a big drinker too?
No, he when we met, he didn't actually know that I was an alcoholic. He knew that I didn't drink, because at the time when we met, I was in a dry period. And it was a sort of baptism of fire for him to really see it.
Oh boy, yeah, That'll test a relationship for sure.
Yeah, it's put, he's been absolutely, completely supportive throughout this whole thing. Um, he went with me, when I needed to get help, and he hasn't run away. A lot of people would have done that.
Mm.
I'm wondering what it was a year ago today that was different for you. It's almost like that feeling of the straw that broke the camel's back, or just that
Yeah.
moment where you said enough. Like, what was it for you that led to that moment?
For me, I knew that I couldn't keep. I was tired. I was really, really tired of going through the same thing every day. And I knew that there was something, better beyond that. And I couldn't keep seeing the pain on other people's faces. It was reaching that complete just surrender point.
Oh, I just want to crawl through the screen and give you such a big hug.
Yeah, me too. Oh man. What do you think was not what was like different about this time? I can't like find the words for the energy that I'm feeling. But I guess like those are the only words that I can use.
Wait, I think I got it.
Great, good.
We're going to tag team ask you questions. It takes
This is
both of
great.
us. So, what you just described of that, not being able to take the look on other people's faces, I would imagine that that's something that you felt before that moment.
Yeah, definitely. Perhaps I knew there was a way, and I knew exactly what I had to do to start. But in the past, I hadn't been willing to even look at that, and I hadn't known which steps I needed to take. This time I did know, and it was a lot easier, therefore, to take them.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like I've had experiences kind of with a similar shift in energy where it's like something you've known kind of for a long time that you needed to handle. And then there is just this one moment of like, I can no longer pretend like I don't know how to make this better.
Yeah. You reach a point, it's literally like a crossroads, and you've got, a fork in the road. And I had to make a choice. That's how I see it now. I had a choice to make.
Can I ask what you felt the alternative choice was? If you kept drinking, what was that road going to lead to?
Death, definitely. It would have led me to, well, either, probably death in one way or another, or prison, or some institution of some kind.
Wow.
Oh boy. I mean, I have in the past definitely used and abused alcohol. And I can't imagine how challenging it is to feel that you're in that deep.
Yeah, something that I found really, I wouldn't say more difficult, because everyone with alcohol, if they've got their struggles, there's, it's bad enough for them. But I found the hardest thing was being young as an alcoholic.
Yeah. When everyone's like, oh no, everything's fine. This is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be getting wasted.
Yeah, when all my friends, were drinking a lot, the difference was how it made me feel.
What do you think the difference was between how it made you feel versus how it made them feel?
I think the difference is that when I had some, I had to have more. And other people can have some. Yes, they'll get drunk. Sometimes they'll have a party and drink too much, but it's not a physical need to have more.
Mm. Wow. It's so interesting, I think, like how we all choose to navigate any space where the potential for addiction is like higher. Because I mean, you could be addicted to anything, but um, like for instance, Justin, who doesn't drink at all, has never had a drink because he's like, I would become an alcoholic. um, and like people who are like that, who I have known, um, versus the people who are like, no, everything's fine, everything's great, or people who do abuse it often, but maybe are not at whatever point they feel they would need to be to like consider themselves an alcoholic. I don't know. It's just interesting. I'm like really present to it right now, like how all of us have our own path in navigating something that can be like completely meaningless and could also be just as easily like the worst thing.
Yeah, I think it's become, well, certainly in the Western world, it's so socially acceptable
Mm-hmm.
to use, alcohol, that for some people it is just as addictive as, say, heroin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a case of it, ever disappearing out of society.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point too. And I'm sure like also because in the UK, I mean, I guess this is true also in like New York, but there's specific places where it's like, oh, going to the pub, that's like what we're gonna do now. Like, oh, I'm getting out of class and now I'm going to the pub. I know, like that's what my sister does, and now because she goes to school in London now, and she's like, they'll get out of class at 11 o'clock and I'll go to the pub, and she's
Yeah.
still like getting used to that. she's like, why are we not going home?
Yeah, I don't know if, obviously, I haven't ever spent any time in the States, so I'm not sure I think the culture is different though. It's definitely
Yeah.
an even stronger drinking culture here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems more normal there, like normalized there.
Yeah, there's definitely a big problem.
Yeah. Tyler, did you have something to say?
I don't know. I'm feeling a lot of energy in my body right now.
Yeah, I can feel your energy.
Yeah. Alcohol's been a big thing for me, and it's like I've gone back and forth. I've used it to cope with like massive grief and loss. I've used it to avoid living my life. I've used it to, I think, physically punish myself
Mm-hmm.
for being like subconsciously thinking I'm a worthless human, and drink to not feel that way, and then would feel these like terrible hangovers. And it's taken me, I think, such a long time to come into a healthy balance with alcohol, and it's still a process that I'm navigating. And I don't know, I just have a lot going on. I really respect you, Sarah, for the decision that you've made, and I think I would love to hear about what happened after you made the decision. So you made a decision and you were like, I'm going to be sober now, starting today. And then what?
For me, I went back to a 12-step program, which I think that's something that is more spoken about over in the States than it is here.
Mm.
I'm not completely sure about that, but it seems to be more sort of acceptable, more widely spoken about. And for me, it's the only solution.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning, you said that if you had to put it into one word, how you were feeling on that day, it was scared. Were you scared that you couldn't do it?
I was scared I couldn't do it, but I was scared of feeling everything I knew I was going to feel. And to have to deal with it without anything to numb it. That was scary.
I was listening to a podcast last night by Tara Brach, who's one of my favorite spiritual teachers, and she says this often, but she said it last night, and every time she says it, it really lands with me. And she says, what is it that you're not willing to feel? Because that's where you need to go. What were you scared you were going to feel?
I think mostly, although it was all the self-hatred, it was all the guilt and shame for what I'd done and the hurt I'd caused people. Having to feel that I just didn't want to. I didn't want to, but I was just prolonging the fact that I would have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've really gotten to this point in my life where I often have the thought, like, I either need to deal with this now or I'm going to have to deal with this later. Like, I'm going to have to deal with this now or later, whether it's like a sink full of dirty dishes or some big emotional thing that I'm avoiding. And it's like, it takes a lot of courage to say, you know what? Now. I choose now. It doesn't take so much courage when it's a sink full of dishes, but I think it does with bigger things.
That's so interesting. I wonder how often we, or maybe it's just I, do that with pleasure too. Just because we talk so much about pleasure on this podcast. Maybe not so much, but it comes up. But from what we do know, or those of us who like read a lot about feelings, the whole thing of like, well, when you numb out the bad, you numb out the good too, and all of that. And so, yeah, I just wonder how often we're like, oh, well, let me just postpone this pleasure. Let me not receive this right now.
It's so funny because I think that there's like the practical, not funny, I don't know why I use that word. There's like the practical side of that, which is like, I'm going to save the candles and the nice china for fancy dinner, as opposed to, I'm going to light these candles and use the good plates every single time I sit down. And then there's, I think, that heavier emotional aspect of it that I think especially can be tied to experiences of addiction, where it's not only that we want to save pleasure for later, but it's almost this feeling of like we don't deserve the good things.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the ups and downs, part of getting better has been accepting that to have the happiness and the highs, or not the highs in a drug related way, but the happiness, that means life brings some sadness. And to feel that happiness, you've got to have, you've got to have both sides of the coin.
Would you say that in this last year, one of the main things you've experienced has been just learning how to feel things?
Yeah, how to feel things, how to process what I'm feeling, identifying what it is I'm feeling, and learning what to do with it, because I don't think, as an adult, I've never learned how to deal with feelings.
I think most of us do not learn that. I think that's why most of us are doing this kind of like personal growth. We're like, how do we deal with these things called feelings? I don't know. No one ever told me.
This also falls in the like camp of things that we knew as children that then we learned other things, because that's just like how little kids will be crying one second and the next second they're the happiest kids in the world, and we look at them like, what is wrong with them? Like, what's happening? And it's like, oh, they felt their feeling and now they're moving on.
Sarah, what has that been like for you over this past year? I would love to hear a little bit maybe about some of the challenges you faced in learning to feel feelings, but also maybe some of the triumphs and celebrations.
for me, it's been a really huge year in the last 12 months because I'd gone from effectively, I wasn't working at the time, and now I'm running my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just making all those decisions. There's so many ups and downs, um, and that brings a lot of feelings, and it's made me just realize that's, it's been quite brave to make decisions like that.
Hmm.
There's a lot of fear. In fact, yeah, a lot of my life it can be fear, but I choose to act out of a place of faith.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Would you be willing to share with us an example of a time that you felt you moved from faith rather than fear?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Um, what, what would be a good example is that I've just mentioned the decision to start a business was the case of I was terrified of all the risks, and I basically had to choose to go out and get a 9 to 5 job that really didn't excite me, and it actually felt quite stifling.
Hmm.
Or I could, be my own boss and do what I'd always wanted to do. But that brought risk, and I had to kind of choose between security and kind of happiness and my own well-being. And I took that because I knew it would be okay somehow. And if I'd acted out of a place of it's too scary, I'll stay in my comfort zone because that way I can't get hurt, but equally I can get hurt. It's a case of if it's just which different things are going to hurt you. There's always going to be positives and negatives and wins and losses in life.
It's so gorgeous as you're speaking, about you can choose the thing that feels safe and that even if it feels stifling and not good, talking about going out and getting a 9 to 5 job to sustain yourself. That also could easily apply to continuing to drink.
Exactly.
Like, the thing that feels safe, the thing that even if it doesn't feel good, at least you know what it is.
Exactly. There's a lot of people, for me, I'll use my example is I will put off dealing with a feeling, even though I'm in pain, emotional pain, because being in emotional pain is something I'm used to. So although it's painful, it's comfortable. It's quite it's a very weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's like I know how to suffer.
Yeah.
Suffering is something I have got down.
And when things are actually just going okay, it's like I found I'm looking for almost like I'm sabotaging, because I'm looking for some kind of drama because I'm not used to things just being okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like so many people can probably identify with that.
Totally.
I'm like, how many times have I created drama in my own life just because I was a little bored?
Yeah.
So many times. Not recently, though. I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, no, not recently. That's good. That's a nice little reflection there.
Well, I want to know... I have a question forming. It's not quite formed, but it's kind of around like your spiritual practice, or maybe it's not something you want to call that, but the things that you do to ground yourself, kind of like touch points as you move through the world.
I suppose I'm trying to just be a better person. So looking at behaviour, like the way I behave, and was that the best thing that I could do in that moment? And it doesn't mean that I'm, a perfect person, because there isn't such thing, and I behave in ways that aren't, the best, but it's the intention that I have to look at that and to try and improve, that's the thing that really matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Mm. There's something that's been really present for me the last few days around empathy. You know, I think that many people are in a crisis of empathy right now, especially given the political climate, where we kind of refuse to extend the energy it takes to empathize with someone who's like quote unquote on the other side of whatever's going on. But I think that like largely that's a reflection of us being unwilling to extend the energy it takes to empathize truly with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, it's to be able to actually love yourself is one of the hardest things, to be able to say it's okay to feel like that. It's okay that you don't always, okay that you're not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and to accept that I've got these, uh, you know, things that are, I won't say wrong with me, but like defects, because that's human.
Mm-hmm.
It's really liberating to be able to, for me, I almost like to see the inner child almost.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who still wants the affirmation, and that's something that I've really had to work on. And I'm very much a case of, kind of like nurture that part of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting. I do the same thing. I literally, like, I mean, last night even had a situation where I was talking to myself and not out loud, but in my head and being like, you know what? It's okay to be really angry right now. It's okay to feel really annoyed. Like, that's not who you are. It's just something that you're moving through in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, you know? And I think there can be a tendency, I guess, going back to that lack of empathy, to be like, I shouldn't be feeling this. I should be past this. I should be above anger.
Yeah, I think there's such a thing in society of how we should be.
Mm-hmm.
We should act a certain way, we should think a certain way, we should feel, look, all those things. And it just damages all our self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
because when we don't fit into that one mold that's been made for the whole world, we all always come up lacking.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the really big problems that's going on today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if everyone's walking around in that same space.
Yeah.
If
Totally.
everyone is walking around being like, I am a total loser. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And we're so busy and have our heads so deep into what's wrong with us that we forget to like look up and look around and be like, oh, actually, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Mm-hmm. Ugh.
What role has community played for you over this last year? And who is your community? Who's your support?
Most of my support is in AA, and that's actually been fundamental because most of my friends are there now. But in terms of like immediate, I've got my family. I'm very lucky to have my family and some friends, my boyfriend and his family, and everyone kind of knows I'm not that ashamed of it, but it took a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The longer it took me to actually just accept that part of me, it was just fueling the problem. Because the fact is, I didn't want to be what I was or what I am, and there was that disconnect inside.
Mm-hmm. how did you move closer to and into accepting that?
I think it's a gradual process. Anything that we have to accept in life, it's not always easy to do just immediately. And for me, I believe that it was every drink I had to have, or every drink I had was something that was necessary for me to get to that point. I needed every bad experience to get me to the point of saying, this is, what I am, this is who I am, but it doesn't have to define me completely. So what I do next.
Oh boy. So it's so big what you've been through.
It is big. There's been a lot of stuff that has been dealt with, and I know it's an ongoing process. But I definitely don't spend my time sitting in self-pity.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
I can tell that from talking to you.
I did spend a lot of time in self-pity, asking why me. That's something, but that held me back from the acceptance, and the lack of acceptance kept me in that space.
I want to know some of your favorite memories from this past year.
Wow, some brilliant memories. Me and my boyfriend are buying a house, and going through that process has been great.
What
Well,
fun.
It's as fun as buying a house can be, with all the stresses. The fact that we're in a position to do that is great. I'm now an aunt.
Oh.
Which for my first, my niece was born actually just a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Gosh, so fun.
So just a lot of brilliant, everything sort of seems to be happening and moving in a direction of as if we've gone through this really bad, dark sort of, almost decade, and now everything is, with hard work, and obviously it's not all, fluffy clouds. It's just that, there's good things happening.
It sounds like lots of really gorgeous beginnings.
Yeah, lots of exciting things that, although you can never plan things that I'd like to happen within, the next few years, and the fact that I believe they're possible now is it's just exciting all the time.
Yeah. Playing with possibility is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and really leaning into that and allowing that space to open up.
I would love to know a little bit about the contrast for you, Sarah, around possibility. How you felt about the future when you were drinking versus how you're able to feel about the future now that you've been sober for a year.
In the past, my future, I didn't look into the future beyond getting the next drink. That's, I suppose, in a way, black and white of it. I didn't look into the future, and if I did, it was just all hazy and black. And now, all the things that I wanted, the big things, before I became an alcoholic, so like being a mother, it's always been a big dream of mine. Now that is a possibility, it's just, I can't even put it into words how exciting that is, to know that could actually happen. It's sort of quite mind-blowing.
I have this quote coming to mind. It's from the TV show The OA, which, if you guys haven't watched it yet, I personally thought was just unbelievable. But there's this moment where she says, "The future is dark, And then she pauses and she says something along the lines of, you know, it's just dark in the sense that you can't see it. And as you're talking, it's so interesting because it's like the future's dark either way a little bit, you know? But it's like, do you choose to be afraid of the dark and to numb out so that you don't even have to acknowledge that the dark is there? Which is, I feel like, how you pretty much described how you were feeling about the future when you were drinking, and definitely describes how I have felt about the future when I was abusing alcohol.
Yeah.
Or the future is dark, but it's like dark like a dark night when you're outside and you can't see it, and there's all this like sense of wonder and expansiveness and possibility.
Because I wouldn't actually want to know what is gonna come. I wouldn't want to know.
Why is that?
I think if it's good things, you know, I'd be impatient, and bad things are going to be bad enough to go through at the time, you know?
Yeah, like I got to think about that when it gets there.
Yeah, I think all the things that happen in life, you know, if I'd have known what the last few years have brought, you know, when I was a child, you couldn't cope, or I couldn't have coped, you know, knowing what was ahead. And maybe that's a slightly pessimistic view on it, but I think it's also realistic that it's take it day by day, because we also don't know, you know, you could spend ages worrying about something, and then, again, not to be negative, but you don't know how long we all have. And I don't want to spend my time worrying about something that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Amen to that. I'm wondering, in AA, do they emphasize, is there an emphasis on living presently in the present moment?
Yeah. Obviously, it's something that's quite private to me, so I don't want to go too far into the, you know, in the actual fellowship, but living in the present moment is fundamental.
Oh my goodness. I have a question that's percolating. It feels tender, so that's why I'm taking a little moment. I'm wondering how you relate to the idea of drinking now. If there are still moments when you consider taking a drink, even if just for a second, and what it's like to experience that and how you move through that.
I never have an urge to have a drink. A couple of times, what has scared me is knowing how easy it would be to drink. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's not that I've wanted to, but how physically easy is it to literally reach out, you know, and pick up a glass, and knowing everything that would do to me, it's quite scary. It's like this glass of poison is just sitting, you know, if you're out with friends for dinner, it's a weird concept. But sometimes what really scares me when I have dreams that I've drunk. They are really terrifying because they seem real. And waking up from them is those sort of dreams is, yeah, it's such a relief, but it's also, I always wake up and my heart's beating really fast. Which serves as a good reminder. Yeah. So sometimes they're given to me at a good time.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I've experienced dreams like that before, and when I've experienced dreams in which I'm drunk, I'm often also driving, which, so scary to be in that. But I'm wondering if you've like noticed any kind of pattern as to when those dreams show up for you, if they're like precipitated by stress, or if you've discerned anything about what tends to bring those on.
I haven't worked out if there's a pattern or what brings it on. I believe it's given to me.
It's a gift.
I'm not a religious person, but whatever my personal beliefs are around that whole, spirituality, I do believe those sort of dreams are meant to happen when they happen for a reason, and I don't need to know what that is. So I kind of, instead of trying to work out, say what brings them on, I look at, okay, I've had this dream. How is, there's obviously a reason I've had it. Am I not being as diligent, or is this like a warning sign, saying you need to explore this area? I just need to examine if there's something deeper going on.
Yeah, like what's requiring my attention right now?
Yeah, sometimes I think we can all be, and this isn't, to do with alcohol, we can all get so wrapped up in our daily lives that we occasionally need little signs to say, hang on a minute, you need to look at this. Sometimes bigger signs than others.
Yeah.
You have several little signs and then say, look, this really needs your attention.
The universe is like, pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention right now. Stop ignoring my signs. Gosh, I'm like so in awe of you. I just the amount of discipline it takes to not only, adhere to sobriety, but also to start a business is like monumental.
Yeah.
I never thought I would. I never dreamt of actually running my own business, so it almost snuck up on me. But if I had dreamt of it, I wouldn't have thought I could.
So where do you get your strength from day in and day out?
My personal beliefs around spirituality. And sometimes that's in other people. I know that my personal power, a lot of things are out of my control.
Well, I'm really deeply honoring you.
Yeah, me too.
It's incredible. What's your, other than a year of sobriety, which I realize is a huge celebration, and I think I'm asking this more like on a emotional level than a, like life event kind of way. What's your biggest celebration from this past year?
My biggest celebration, I'm trying to pick a moment again, to do with business, simply because I never thought I could do it. And to be able to face my fears, which I've always run from them in the past, and the fact that this time I didn't, that change in me that's a celebration.
I love that. I think that's amazing.
Oh.
It's interesting because I feel like so much of what you're talking about I could apply to my own, spiritual journey or growth journey or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's fascinating how, regardless of the demons that each of us face, the actual internal struggle is often so similar.
Yeah.
Whether it's addiction, well, I guess it's usually addiction to one thing or another.
I think the fundamental part is not liking ourselves, not wanting to feel feelings, but also that really deep part of not liking who we are.
Sarah, what's your favorite thing about yourself?
I believe I've got a kind heart. And I wouldn't have been able to say that a while ago.
Mhm.
Not because I don't think, it's not that I don't think I had a kind heart, but I couldn't say anything nice about myself.
Mm.
Well, I'm celebrating you and your kind heart.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it so much.
Me too.
I feel very inspired.
I feel really yummy.
What are you most looking forward to in the next year? So 1 year from now, what will you be like looking back on?
I hope to be in my new house. And who knows, maybe something else big might have happened in my relationship.
Yes, girl, you and me both.
Yeah. If the hints are anything to go by, so that would be brilliant.
If so men are out there listening.
So I suppose in my personal life and my professional life, and then in my recovery life, which is personal life, but it's also kind of, to me, deserves its own category.
Yeah. I'm so excited for your life.
I know.
So am I, for the first time that I could actually say that.
So good.
I feel that way too, Sarah. I feel like in this past year and a half, which is, kind of when I hit my point of like, all right, something's got to change. Something's got to change or I'm going to die. I felt that too. Not specifically with alcohol, but just kind of in the way I was living my whole life. And it feels really good to feel excited about the future. So I'm really feeling that with you and on your behalf and on behalf of myself and everyone. I just feel like the future's looking really bright.
Yeah, to be able to be excited about the future is just about as we talked about earlier, the possibilities. To not, even though we don't know what's coming up, just to be, filled with these possibilities. It's definitely the way to being content for me.
Before we wrap up, I wanna go back to the beginning a little bit. And I know I've already asked this, but I'm gonna ask it again. A year ago today, when you were making the decision to commit to sobriety, what was the thing that you were most scared of?
Feeling everything I knew was about to hit me. But one thing I've definitely learned that is that the only way forward is through. You can't, you can go around it or over it or under it, but at some point you're going to have to properly deal with it, and that means going straight through the heart.
I just wanted to come back to that because I think it's so gorgeous, because if you're afraid of feeling, you can't feel all the excitement about possibility.
Exactly. You shut yourself off from all the positive associations.
So magical.
I'm obsessed with all of this. Oh gosh.
Sally, do you have any more questions?
I don't think I do. I just I really honor you and celebrate you, Sarah, and I'm so excited about what's in store for you, and and now knowing who you are and getting to celebrate with you along the way.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, will you come back in a year?
Absolutely.
Because I want to know everything.
We'll put it on the calendar.
I'll start making notes.
Oh man.
Okay, so Sarah, I want to invite you now to close your eyes again. And take a couple of really deep, gorgeous breaths into this space that you're inhabiting right now. And when you're ready, share with us in one word how you're feeling.
Calm.
And if you could go back to a year ago today and speak to yourself directly from the woman that you are today, what would you say to her?
I would say, I promise it's going to be okay.
I'm gonna cry.
I know, me too. I've already cried like 3 times.
My goodness. I don't know. I cannot adequately express the gratitude that I'm feeling right now, Sarah, for you being here and sharing with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Sally, what else? How do we end the show? I forget.
Well, Sarah, if people want to find you and learn more about your awesome business, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me at wonderlandgraphicdesign.com.
Oh,
or
lovely.
if they like to find lots of pretty images, because I'm all about that, follow me on Instagram at Wonder Graphic Design.
Oh man, I can't wait to follow you. I'm gonna put all that in the show notes, so if you're interested, you can go follow Sarah. And Sally, where can the people find you on the internet?
They can find me at Sally Simply on social media, or at sallymercedes.com or unmutedexpression.com.
Hooray!
What about you?
I am Tyler Fowler on all the social media, tylerfowler.com. And if you'd like to see anything about our podcast, we are a Year Ago podcast across all of the platforms. ayearagopodcast.com. And if you'd like to get in touch with us for any reason, to share your own story or to send a note to Sarah or whatever, you can email us at ayearagopodcast@gmail.com.
Yay! And if you like our intro outro music, you can follow Zynahel, Zynahel, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud.
And what else? Sharing is caring.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you to everyone who has reviewed our podcast on all the platforms, to who has shared our podcast. Please keep doing more of that. It really, really helps us get this beautiful message out there and share people's stories.
And last but not least, we have also just launched our Patreon page, which is somewhere you can go visit to support us with donations.
Yep.
We're really excited about that. And there's lots of juicy rewards there too. So
yeah,
go check it out.
Become a more delicious part of our community.
All right. Is that everything?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, under an hour. I don't think that's ever happened before.
Oh boy. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Until next time.
Peace out.
Bye.